MINDBEND, non-ordinary and extraordinary states of consciousness for MINDBEND Creative.
So thanks so much for taking the time to meet up with me, man. I wanted to connect with you since first meeting you at last year's Awakening of Consciousness conference here in Los Angeles, and that was that's continued to be a way that I can meet people, and I just love meeting people in this space. It's just conferences like that bring together so many different people, and I moved out to Los Angeles 2.5 years ago. So a big part of coming out here was um, being able to meet people with greater fluidity. And it seems like people are willing to connect and eager to connect and excited to connect. And I welcome that because I like connecting.
Right.
Are you a
Right. No,
sociable
well,
person? Do you consider yourself like an extroverted person or an introverted person or a hybrid? How do you?
uh, I would say hybrid. Yeah. I spend a lot of time within myself, a lot of time talking, going over things.
Yeah.
But then I'm also around a lot of different other people as well, just communicating, networking, or just expressing psychedelic opinions and thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. So what does your schedule look like these days? Because I think the hours that are represented on the church on the website accurate? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's when you're like doing work there on the land.
Yeah, definitely. Those are like the days where pretty much I have the guys or some of the members of the church come by. We'll have ceremony usually Friday night, and then we'll sweat Saturday morning, and then usually Sunday's just like a clean up, wrap up things. Like yesterday, I had somebody come out and we had a sweat, and then the day before we had some more people come by and just chat and kind of want to get to know about what's going on at the church. They actually flew in from West Virginia, so it was kind of cool that someone found us online and then wanted to come all the way from out in Virginia and come and sweat and kind of just discuss about furthering their more expansion within psychedelics. Yeah, one of the ladies, her fiance, he has a TBI. He fell and kind of injured himself a little bit, and so she was just looking at other things to help. And she said she came across the church, and so they were just out here a couple of days ago, and yeah, it was just cool to see them and work with them and continue to pursue helping people with this earth-based medicine.
Yeah, I'd imagine that you've done a fair bit of consultation, I guess is probably a decent word to use in terms of like, because your church has been around for 3 years.
Since 2019, yeah,
Oh,
about
19. Okay.
3 years. Yeah.
4 years, yeah. Um, have you spoken with other people who have a desire to execute the same kind of model and like help them orient like what was entailed with you getting going and expectations
Yeah,
and
I've definitely talked to some certain people. Like, there is this native group that's working out in Oregon, and they're going kind of based off their model and what they have up there. But they were saying that they didn't really like the model and some of the ways that they were doing the things out there because they were discussing how the way they do their psychedelic therapy and whatnot out there is like it's real kind of like hold your hand and very like policy oriented and whatnot, and it's not necessarily so much freedom to the person or to even the facilitator. So she was just explaining how the model here, at the church, if we can, help them as far as give them ideas or get them into the routes of, pursuing into getting their own facility, because they want to create like a not necessarily a sober living, but like a for people who are recovering and people that want to come and
Mhm.
get that type of healing through that way, especially in the native community. So that's where they were trying to work with me on that. And then also, yeah, I talked to some other people out in like Maryland and other places. Like right now, they're trying to get me on the psychedelic task force in Maryland to help them out there, but going through a little pushback just because I'm a California residency. But I was just explaining to them, I was like, for someone who's done this over 200 plus times, you would want to have that on your side versus someone who might have all this paperwork that looks good, but maybe has only done maybe 5 or 10 ceremonies max, or maybe even less than that, and they're really book smart and very on edge and the cutting edge of that stuff. But for me, what I've noticed is doing the work I do, some of that stuff, like I always say, it doesn't necessarily apply because
Mhm.
it's different when you're dealing with someone spiritually or coming into someone who's actually getting put into a deeper state of consciousness and doesn't necessarily know what it is about. And you trying to be to the book and explain to them while they're going through the medicine or whatnot, it's like it's either not going to register or they might not even know what you're talking about versus, the church, we talk about things more in a, layman terms, as they say, but, also just simple, whether we're talking about the spirit, the fire, the medicine, each other, the community. Because I go to some of these psychedelic communities and man, the way these guys talk and some of the sentence structures and how they use their words, I'm just like, man, like I get it, but at the same time, what are you trying to tell me out of something like articulate or some polished up? But it's like, do you sit with people all the time? And in a ceremonial setting, I've heard all the other stories, of people in their living room, people outside, people in a closed environment, but I still yet to hear stories of like what I've heard at the church, whether it's my personal stories or other people's experiences. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to continue to push that and also just push the truth in psychedelics. Because I feel like a lot of people out there, it's like 50-50, not to say they're right or wrong, but there's just not enough data and proof out there for people to be like really throwing it out there versus, like I said myself, I'm just speaking from experience and seeing it firsthand. I'm not speaking it because I'm listening to all these other people. It's like I actually see it and seeing it with my own eyes and seeing other people and how they act and go about this versus the other model where I've heard many stories, people say they have bad experiences. People say they didn't get anything or people felt abandoned, alone, people felt even farther away from themselves. Like, so to me, I'm like, I don't know what's going on out there if, everyone's talking about all this good stuff, but yet if you pull the curtain back, there's a lot more other things that are not necessarily negative, but they're not as positive as everyone's making it either.
Hmm. Are you using technologies, medicines, sacraments every weekend? Is that something that you're regularly doing yourself? Do you participate every weekend without fail as a matter of cause, or does it vary depending on circumstances?
Well, on a busy month, we can have 4 to 5, but on regular terms, it's like between 1 and 3 a month. So yeah, it's pretty frequent,
Hmm.
and as far as costs and everything, everything's free, like I always say, everything's free, no charge. And yeah, that's one of the good things I like about it as well, because I've noticed majority of people have some type of price, whether
Sure.
it's subscriptions, product, traveling, whatever, integration, training, all. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, but what does that have to do with myself getting help or like my spirit? Like, if I'm need help and I got to go through this integration and all these classes, and just for me to get here, it's like, man, I don't know. They're just, if I'm an honest person outside of like trying to build my resume or wanting to look cool or make some money, it's like, I'm not gonna really dig that because I'm like, I need help, I'm not trying to be the cool person or try to make some money or be qualified in this field. It's like I've tried everything. I've tried diet, I've tried this, I've tried that, and man, I just things are hard. And I feel like all the modalities that people have out there, they just don't appeal to those people, because I get emails from them reaching out to me saying like, "Oh, I try to go here, and this was $2,000. This is 1,500. This is 900. This was 3,000. This was 5,000." And I'm just like, man, like it's free here. And I'm not saying it like that. Obviously, it costs money. I'm paying for a majority of things outside of like sponsorships and people that are helping me. But for the most part, I'm paying for most of this myself. And I'm just saying that because, I have the means to provide for my church and for the people. So I know a lot of people don't always have those means, and that's why they do want to work for money or they do want to get into a lucrative career that could possibly, bring them a good income or
Right.
six-figure salary, being a
Yeah.
coach or whatever it may be.
Right. How do you support you and yourself and your family? Like, what are the revenue streams for you that you've established for yourself?
Well, like I tell people, I come from Morongo, Band of Mission Indians. It's a billion-dollar tribe, and they pay their tribal members every month. So
Got it.
we get a per capita every month, and so basically that's where I get my means, and I'm able
Mm.
to not only take care of my family, but get the church going and be able to set up things and provide food and everything that is necessary.
Got it. So what I asked earlier about whether or not you're using mushrooms every weekend, is do you have a practice, a personal practice where you're in the habit of taking mushrooms every weekend yourself, or do you use them every week, or what's your personal like ongoing relationship? Because I know you're facilitating for others, but what's your practice? Are you taking 15 grams every Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, so my regiment would be ceremonial use only.
Yeah.
Because when I first started getting into using medicine and using it to help people, I did try it, because just all the talk and all the discussions of microdosing and everything, I gave it a shot, and I didn't necessarily like it because it kind of put me into the zone of when I was in ceremony, and that zone's very expansive, and I say like very omnipresent, and so I didn't really like that feeling because, excuse me, I like this feeling, where I'm like more here, I'm more centered, I know this spot, but when I want to go into that space of consciousness or that awareness, I go to the Wamkish, to the big house, our ceremonial space, to where all that can be contained. But it's like out here, I always say it's like the Wild West in the spiritual world, because it's like out here, nothing gives a damn. Like from technology to this to that, like nothing is catering the spirit. It's kind of like, it's just this fun, free, everything, don't give a damn. Let's just trample over everything type energy. But then when I go into the Wonkish, like I said, it's like I bring that back in from when I burn the cedar, the sage, the tobacco, the water, the fire. Now all that is older than, like I said, computers, TVs, all this fake stuff in my house, the wiring, everything, So it's like I'm able to hone in. And then when I'm on a microdose, it's like all that stuff emits. I tell people everything emits frequency, from a computer to a TV to the circuits in your house. So like I said, when I'm on a microdose, it's like everything's just it's going. And I'm like, no, I'm not here to do that. Like I don't have a headache. I don't have a this. I'm not here to just like, if I'm gonna go big, I'm gonna go big. So when I do go in, yeah, I take between, it could vary, I could take 4 grams, 5 grams, 10 grams, 15, 20, it just depends. But my base dose for most ceremonies is between 8 and 13. That's like my base dose, like if I'm with a new person, I'll take it a little easy, I'll take maybe 4 to 8, give them maybe two, three, or maybe 1.5. And then yeah, we go in. But if it's working with people that are like someone who's a continuing, want to come around and do it, or some people even recommend, they're like, hey, can we do a high dose ceremony? And yeah, that's when we'll go like 15 plus. And yeah, I love it. I love it that way, because I feel like every time I go in, because people ask me this too, they're like, well, why do you got to take the mushrooms all the time? Like if you're where you need to be, then why do you got to take it? And for one, it's like I want to be there with the person. I don't want to. I feel like when I run the ceremony, I feel like if I didn't take the medicine, I feel like that's lazy. Like that's a lazy practitioner. Like that'd be like me in a lawn chair, and I'm just like, yeah, here you guys go, and have fun. But it's like, nah, I'm gonna go in there with you, and I'm gonna get my healing that I need for myself. But I'm also gonna be in there to navigate and feel and understand and be there with you, not just to be like, yeah, that's your own journey. You need to go through that. I'm here to hold your. No, 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 no. I'm in there. I'm in the whirlpool with you. You can't sit there and tell me like, oh, you don't know what I'm going through. I may not know what you're going through personally, but in this moment right here, right now, where we're sitting, yeah, I can feel this uncomfortability. I could feel the anxiety, the sorrow, the woe, the anger. Yeah, I could feel it all right now. But like I said, if I might not be on the medicine, shoot, I could be thinking about like, man, when am I gonna go to sleep, or when am I going inside, or man, I can't wait
Mhm.
till tomorrow. It's like, no, like I said, when I'm on the medicine, I feel like I'm more in the present moment, and then also I just love going there, because everything that I've built outside of, materialistic things and whatnot, my money getting me what I can buy, that spiritual teaching and those understandings have taken me far in life. They've taken me all over in this psychedelic space, from conferences to being on, big television things like CBS Sports and other things like that. And yeah, so to me, it's like I love it, and there's proof in the pudding, whether it's myself or anyone who's ever been here, And yeah, I've had a couple people that have said whatever they said, but I believe also that the psychedelic community, they're not teaching responsibility within people either. Like instead of someone taking accountability for their own faults or what they've done, or maybe even how they go into a space and judging a space, or thinking that they can prejudge a space and go in there and criticize a space and judge them, when at the end of the day it's like, you're coming here as a guest, and you should take that in consideration and understand and humble yourself, and not just think that just because you have this understanding of what you might think a Native American is, or an Indian, or whatever you want to call them. We're not that, I tell you that. And so I've noticed that. So I made a video the other day. I was like, there's native racism in the psychedelic community, whether people want to admit it or not, And I love the people that like natives, but the ones that don't, I see it. I see when I come in the room how people act, or even when I discuss these topics, it's like people don't want to hear it. But if I was talking about going to a party, having a ketamine in the back, and you guys want to have some MDMA and some acid, man, people love that. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but people are where they're at, and people are where they want to go. But when you start talking about seriousness and ceremonial, and everyone's saying, oh, let's help the indigenous, this, and I'm like, but what does that mean when you're doing your own people that or you're just doing it from like a different perspective, but you're not including natives? I'm a native right here who is probably doing some of the most invasive work with these psychedelics in Southern California. One of the only Native American owned, operated, psychedelic churches in Southern California and whatnot. So like, I hear all these people talk, but I'm like, you guys must not want to know the real deal, because you guys just want to have fun. It's like my medicine person that I go to. He's like, man, people just want to fornicate. People just want to fornicate, and in all different ways, not just that specifically,
Hmm.
but people
Hmm.
just want to get out, and they don't want to
Yeah.
do nothing. They want to forget their problems. They want
Yeah.
to, no one really wants to heal. That's what he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
saying. Like, you're going to
Yeah.
just see so many people that come through your space, but he was just explaining to me, as long as you keep it wholesome, that's good, because no matter who you are, someone's always looking for a community. Someone's always looking for a place to, like, in a way, he was saying, like, rest their head, kind of like get away from their troubles, and provide them a space where they're welcomed. And because some people can go places and they're not welcomed, or they're not, come with friendly arms, or maybe their life's not as good as they're making it. Maybe there's a whole facade and they're just trying to be better. They're trying to be good. So he was just saying, make the space welcoming and open, and you're going to get people that are, there for BS. But he's like, if you keep it honest, you're going to see those who are real, and those that are going to stick around and continually to want to grow and learn. And that's what I'm seeing. I've seen those that have come and gone, but then I'm seeing the other group of people that want to learn, that want to listen, that want to engage, that want to understand beyond what they think it is. You know what I mean? And to me, I love that, because it's like, that's why I'm here, to bridge that gap. Because I know outside of the whole charade of psychedelics, people do want to get their spirit aligned. People do want to mentally get their mind right. People want to get their body aligned and healthy and understanding. So that's also what pushes me to keep going despite the whole party of psychedelics. It's like, I know there's genuine people out there who want help and want to expand their consciousness, or just their well-being, or even building a connection spiritually. So that's where I love that that's there.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like just in my time of being a journalist in this space and observing this landscape evolve and going to different conferences, having different conversations and being in different gatherings, parties, etc. There's a yeah, there's different approaches to what's actually happening, and I think some of the stories in the addiction recovery space with regards to psychedelic work is are some of the most immediately affecting, compelling, and appealing to me, because those people are really showing up. And desperation's not really the only word to use, not maybe not the best word to use, but they're showing up with an antithetical purpose. It's an antithetical to partying, and it's not celebrating as much as um recognizing a dire need and making a commitment to go through this process, which is not necessarily pleasurable, because maybe they made choices that at one point in time were pleasurable, but quickly became not so. And so those people, I think, are showing up with a lot of intentionality, a lot of consideration, and I think it's a different story. Um, I do think also that in presence. Like I love that you're I love that you're happy in this density and that there's work to do here, and then the space that you go into for the ceremonial work is very intentional, and you want to be fully there, and while you're here you're fully here. I think that people are really encouraged to be checking out all the time, whether or not that's like using cannabis on a daily basis to, or a different kind of medication that's prescribed, or technology or food or whatever it is, right? Like, presence is really, really, really precious, right? Like, presence is very, very valuable, very sublime for real. That's why when you have like deep connections with like your children or your nieces and nephews, your family or your partner or whatever, what a beautiful, powerful, incredible thing to be able to actually have connected presence with somebody else. And I always, when I talk to people about, I never planned on working in this space. This just kind of happened, like that the opportunity came to me, and it appeals to my creative, empathetic, intuitive, spirit feeling to be connecting with people on conversations around consciousness, psychedelic, healing, growth. I always, when I talk to people about, I often bring up, well, back in the day or in smaller communities, or when time allowed for communities to be smaller, and there were medicine women and medicine men who they knew the tribe, they knew the group, they knew the people who they lived around. So part of the if it's not, I hope it's not inaccurate to say that part of the work that was being done came from a deep knowing and a deep seeing and a deep understanding of the person, and all that's entailed, because there's so much entailed with being a person,
Right.
with
And
being a
just being
human.
like you were saying, like being present, like being there, like, in those old times in smaller communities, it's like they didn't have to necessarily worry about going to work or going here. And like I said, in the times of hunting, it was like, okay, we're gonna gather these men and we're gonna go hunt for these kids, these women, these elders, and we're gonna come back, and like I said, it was more in the moment, everything you did was right then and there. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, I'm gonna do this next week, I'm gonna do this next month. It's like, no, right now we're gonna go get food and we're gonna come back. And in that moment of getting food, you like you said, you're gonna see kids smiling, kids running around. You're gonna see women smiling, women, grandmas, everybody's gonna be happy. Like I said, it's part of the community. And then even in the trials too, when people get hurt, people go through, death, people go through sickness. It's like you're there. You're there. It's not like, okay, we're gonna send them to this hospital and we'll go see you tomorrow, or we'll see you when we don't have work, when whatever it may be. It's like, no, we're gonna help you right now. Like we're gathered everyone we can. It's gonna be right now. And that's another reason why I like the ceremony, because it puts people at the present. Like I said,
Mhm.
tomorrow never happened. Yesterday already happened. In reality, they're not real. But right here, right now, is the only reality that's going on right now. And that's kind of what I think also too, is just the smaller communities put people more at the present, because they actually had to be involved with people's lives, and they had to check up on people and ask, like, hey, how's the bread maker? How's this person? How's this person? How's that? Whatever it may have been in that community, shoemaker, anyone, whoever it was, you best believe they were checking on each other or keeping it in that moment. It wasn't going through a text or an
Mm.
email. It's like face to face, like, hey, what's going on? And like I said, in those, you could see people's facial expressions, body language. So I just think it was more in tune to people,
Yeah.
human presence.
Yeah. You said early on in this conversation today, that you're talking in the psychedelic community. Right now, what does psychedelic mean to you?
Ugh. I mean, at first it just meant like expanding yourself, but now I don't even know, because I've just seen so much. I'm kind of like losing faith in the psychedelic community. So I don't really understand anymore about the psychedelic meaning. I mean, I guess just change, that's how I seen it in the beginning, was change, and it's still changing, but yeah, that's all I got on that.
Yeah, 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 and we'll dive into a little deeper. Your origin story. You were a football player with aspirations to play professionally, collegiately, and it apparently, course changed. You found that that was not going to be suited appropriately for you, and you got back into getting in touch with your native, your indigenous roots and community, and started being a part of activism in those communities, and then wound up feeling like being a leader in the capacity that you are now, an organizer, an advocate, was the sweet spot for you. Um, what have you learned about being human over that time? Because there's a lot of we have a lot of speculation, especially at times like in this country right now, where we're coming up on an election in the US, right? And there's such incredible animosity, towards each other at this time. And that makes you that can make you wonder, what what is this human experience, like what's the value of it? Like some days you could feel like this is an incredible gift and a miracle to have become human, or maybe some days you think this is just a garbage routine and there's no point to it and it's just depressing and objectively nasty. Like, so what are some of the takeaways that you've had, whether or not you're in a psychedelic experience or a sweat or just walking around the house or whatever, driving and work, playing with your kids? Like, tell me about being human. What is being human about to you?
Well, it's like what you said, there's days where it's really good and there's days like, dang, like, are these guys ever going to wake up and see the real gift we have? Because I feel like people can't necessarily understand that. I was talking to my friend the other day. He's a Navy SEAL vet, and I know how much he's really patriotic and whatnot, and really loves this country. And I was just expressing to him, I was like, look, man, I was like, I wish the government was fully transparent with its people. And I was like, what I mean, I was like saying like, the treaties and everything that the government ever did with us. I was like, I wish they would show that and show the people, because at the end of the day, we were trying to benefit for the betterment of all of our people, not just natives, but for all the people that were here. And that's why the treaties were made. That's why these things were put into place. And, the thing for me is like, I feel like the humans can never go to another place of betterment because those truths are never being addressed. The real history of this country, of the government, it's not being addressed. And due to that lack of truth being withheld, we're in this repetitive cycle of chaos and destruction. And so that's kind of where I'm at with my human, because I feel like my heart, it's from my people, it's from Creator Mother Earth. Like every creation has a specific role and a trait within creation, from me to the oak tree to the clouds, the stars, the moon. Everything has a role and a reason for why being there, just like an ecosystem. If you were to just rip out a main part of that ecosystem, the whole thing's gonna go to shit. And that's how I feel about the people here. Like we were part of that ecosystem, whether people want to admit that, realize that, or understand that or not. We were part of this ecosystem and we were stripped from it. We were degraded and we were just put in the back. And it was replaced by big oil, big steel, coal, by everything we see now, war, everything. And I'm not saying that we were any more different. Like I said, we had wars, but it wasn't these kind of wars. The wars we had, I feel like, were real wars, like legit wars, not us creating wars and enemies through the CIA, Mossad, all these different things happening. It's like things like that weren't happening. But what I'm getting at is I keep thinking that if, people were to actually see us, like I told my friend, you don't have to like us, you don't have to accept us, but the morals of our people would keep America alive and make America great again. If you were to fucking take care of the water, the land, the way we interact as people, I think this place would be a lot better if it adopted native morals and values. Not to say you have to change who you are as an American, but if you're a real American, you should take care of the land, the water. You should have respect for the creations here and the things here, and not just be like, yeah, go America, we could just consume and take, consume and take, consume and take. The kids that aren't even born yet, they're gonna have to face the worst things that are yet to come from these oils and the fracking and the wars. And that's what I mean. That's all due to, I feel like, America throwing away Native American values and traditions and cultures. Like even the ceremonies itself, like I keep saying, they teach you how to understand and respect the earth. Like you go through American school system and college system, whatever, how much of that teaches you to respect the land you walk on? How much of that education gives you land respect or respect for creation? It's like how much of that tells you to respect each other as humans? How much of that tells you how to be right with people or be right with any of those things? It's like I know when I was going through school and college, ain't nowhere telling me to respect the earth and respect the land and respect the water and the land, and that relationship can better our lives or make life more precious or extend life to a greater beyond. But no, I feel like that's kind of where it's at is I wish people would just wake up and see that it's not just a native thing. We're humans. We're all here living now. It's not just, it was never that. It's all of us here now. And due to us, picking sides and choosing, it's like the way I see it, both sides are all corporation fed and controlled by big gas, big electric. Everyone's like, oh no, Trump's so rich, he don't need corporations. How do you think he got rich? How do you think his family stays rich? Usually that's through corporations, whether it be oil, whether it be through this, whether it be through that, weapons trading. There's just so many things that people, but the bottom line is the truth is not being expressed to Americans about what really happened here. And that's why I keep saying until then, I don't think the American can get over that hump because they're just going to think this is what we have, which is consume, destroy at the illusion of progress, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that if you're going to come into having insights that can really inform realizations that you have about what's happening and this concept of we're not going to progress and do things differently if we don't recognize and discuss where we've done things wrong and share the truth about things that have happened. It takes like space and work and time and containers to like drill into those conversations, right? So where do you see revolutionary acts of information exchange and like meetings of the mind and like connecting? Like what are some places that you're experiencing the work getting done to have learning experiences?
Well, for one, Church of the People at the Wamkish. But two, the most times I've had the most realizations of those types of thoughts would honestly be on the front lines. Like when I would be at
Mm.
like a movement, whether it was No Dapple, Oak Flat, tar sands, different pipelines, the Exxon, Mobil spills, different things that I've been to. It's like that's the only time I've actually seen it because it's like I'm there, and I'm here for this. I'm not here for that or this. And it's like these guys, they're here to stop us. And that goes to show like how much of a threat we are to their system. And that's what I mean by like, that's the only time I've thought that because I'm like, you don't want your kids to have clean water, but you'll point a gun at me trying to protect this water for all of us, and all these other people here that are standing up for it when you don't even care what happens to this. You don't even care. Like America's already gave their opinion many times. And so for me, that's where I felt like I felt the most. And then even talking to the people there, it's like everyone's already on that mindset, whether it's an indigenous person or other people that have been on different fights, different front lines, different activism work. It's like they're ready and they already know, like, yeah, this system is fucked, and this stuff is all shit. Like these people don't care about me, my family, my kids, the trees, whatever it may be. So, I mean, I've been to a lot of places and I don't even hear people talk like that, and it's like, unless obviously you're talking about like, Israel, Palestine, different things of that, you might hear things, but it's like no one really knows what that means. Like when I used to have I used to go to high school, I used to have Palestinian friends and I never really understood the battle, that they had and whatnot. And he's like, man, he's like, I like you guys, He's like, you guys are just like us. He's like, we're like you in our country. He's like, dude, we're original people. He's like, but now you got borderlines. And he's like, you got guys with guns and everything. He's like, dude, you cross that line, you get shot, He's like, they'll shoot kids, they'll shoot everyone who crosses this border. But he's like, this is our homeland, this is where we come from and whatnot. And so what I'm saying is like, you only talk to people who really understand oppression or whatnot, but it's like America. I feel like Americans have never necessarily felt that oppression. Yeah, people could say, I don't have a lot of money. I don't have this. I don't have that. But it's like there's still resources to tap into. And you're just not like, it's not like you're just stranded, like someone could tap in. I mean, people in the homeless situation, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but they find means, they got phones, they got, cookware, everything. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but people are still having ways. But it's like other places, no, you're getting shot, you're getting murdered, you're getting put in a concentration camp, you're getting marched to your death. And I'm talking about like our people with the longest walks, prison of war camps, like all these things. So to me, it's like I feel like, Americans just don't even think like that. Americans are just like, yeah, everything's all good. Kamala got their back, Trump, whoever, everyone's gonna be like, they got
Yeah.
our back. And I'm like, how much of our back do they have? Like they're gonna show up to your funeral, they're gonna take care of your issues, within the community. It's like chances are it's not gonna happen. And I was just talking to my other friend about this. It's like, when is America gonna realize that these people selectively pick the things they care about and everything else is disregarded every single time? Like every community's been let down to a degree. Yeah, there's people who are like, yes, they've done this, they've done that. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like, what have they helped? You know? If we're still facing all this racism, all this gun violence, all this everything going on, economic downfalls, everything going to crap, like what have they changed? What have all these presidents changed? What does every single one of them change? You know what I mean? I don't think they, like I said, if it wasn't for my people being so stern and who they were, we wouldn't have any rights today. That wasn't because of them. That was because of my people knew what we were about and knew what we stood for. But most people now, it's like, what are you going to stand for? What do you stand for? World Series? Hey, it's like, what are you going to stand for? And most people are like, yeah, I don't know. Like I told my friend, are you going to go defend the water right now? It's like, nah, you won't. You probably watch it on a live stream or watch it on Al Jazeera or something like that. You know what I mean? Or some media. So that's kind of why my take on that is just I don't think a lot of people think like that. And then I also don't think people are harboring those types of spaces because it's kind of uncomfortable for people
Hmm.
too. I've
Hmm.
noticed some people, when you start talking about honest truth, it just makes them uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
I wish people would just put that uncomfortability aside and just listen and see the truth behind maybe the elevated voice change or the
Hmm.
tone and just see that these people are really affected by this. It's not like they just want to wake up and be mad. Like when I hear people talk about indigenous issues, it's like, oh, get over it. You guys are okay. You guys get money. You guys have health care. You guys have this. But if that's people don't get it's here. Once you get hit here, everything else follows from the way you talk, from the way you sit up, the way you answer, respond, and it gets passed down generationally. Like I said, the natives were pushed to a point of where now it's like a native doesn't even know who they are. Like, even if they go into the workforce for 20 plus years, 30 plus years and do all this and that, it's like a lot of them are still like who am I? And it's like we had, and that applies to other people too, but I'm just saying, like, we had real identities, we had real reasons to be here, just like you were saying earlier, like, oh, why do I keep doing this? It's like a deadbeat life. It just has no fucking real value, no reason. It's like, natives had real value in their lives, whether they were ceremonial people, hunters, gatherers, anything, and now it's like go to work, get a job, this, and it's like that life. I'm not saying it's for Americans either, but it kind of is the way it's been put on. But for us, it's like we're the youngest ones to the system. Everyone else has been adopted, dropped it in, and just made it their life. So for me, that's kind of where I keep, hoping that people see that it's not just that, the oh, you guys get over it. It's like, no, it's a real
Hmm.
mental health issue that was it's not even was, it is amongst us that is very highly crucial. And it's just in America too, and that's where I'm hoping to bridge this gap with the church and the psychedelics and the people because it's big. I feel like how the natives are affected. Now Americans are getting affected on a bigger scale because
Yeah.
there's more Americans, there's more of this, there's more water being taken, there's more oil. So it's like now it's getting put on a bigger grand scale. And that's kind of what I'm hoping people can learn through myself, the church, and communities in the Native America because it's like, I feel like we could be a good ally to America, especially with getting through some of the hard times, because I feel
Hmm.
like America, like I said, they don't know that much hard times compared
Hmm.
to what the other people. It's like, oh yeah, whatever community you're by, it's like, yeah, I bet you that community's never been rounded up by the government and just taken somewhere. You go to East LA, it's like no one in that circle was just rounded up in East LA and marched over here to this mountain to die. Like someone in South Central Watts Like they're not getting rounded up by the government and executed. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that stuff actually happened to our communities at large. You know, like I said, no one's getting that right now. And to me, I wish America would just wake up and come together as one, as people, you know, because we know what we need as people. We all know what our communities are lacking, what they have good, you know, and I feel like if people were to come together more, it would be awesome. But like what, you know, you're saying, these politics, it puts communities at each other and it makes everyone argue, or people want to just hate on you because you're voting for this or that, when it's like
Yeah.
we should be coming together as people and talking about what we need instead of giving it to these outer powers who just don't care about us.
Yeah, yeah, Shane, thank you. And that's what I was kind of getting at too. I wish there, and I wondered if you knew about or were inspired by, and I would like to see more accessible containers for uncomfortable conversations. I feel like maybe at some of these conferences that could be worked into more effectively. Like, I like the idea of town halls where people can stand up and share 10 minutes about something that is grinding their gears or deeply troubling them, or that something they're reeling from, or whatever. Like, let's. I always push to have uncomfortable conversations in my own family, and it was not like, it's tough because people
Right.
get fucking weird. If you start talking about something that's really perplexing and troubling to you, most people don't really want to hear it,
Right.
and you got to have empathy because like it's um
Or they
it's
just think
tough.
you're complaining and they're like, suck it up, quit complaining.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, right. Sure, sure. Yeah, but like actually being able to empathize and then hold space, like I wonder what we can do to create more accessible, consistent containers. The only ritual I grew up with was Catholic Mass on Sundays, and all the sacraments that entailed growing up in that faith tradition. But like, once I started like feeling differently about, that whole story and that whole world, like I could no longer like participate. But I really wish that we had consistent access to spaces where um, we could discuss our vileness, we could
Right.
discuss our nastiness and our trouble, more
Yeah, that's what my
openly.
friend was discussing. He's like, man, people should be looking to have uncomfortable dialogue in the psychedelic space because it's like there's so much BS going on and everyone is kind of like bypassing that for like, oh, did you read this article? Did you hear so and so? Did you see this new that? You see this new that? But it's like, hey, did you also hear that some of these supplements aren't even mushrooms? Did you hear some of them don't even have real product in them? Did you also hear that some of these people are actually getting sexually attacked? Did you hear that some of these people are creating algorithms to really take out, the true honest people? Like, people don't talk about some of these things or talk about how, people are racist in the movement or people don't like certain people. It's like people don't want to hear that. People are just like, no, all love, all peace. You're being negative, bro. And it's like, I'm not being negative. I want this community to be wholesome. I don't want this community to be a shady piece of shit.
It seems like it has the potential for a community at large to make more effort than less effort to have the hard conversations. I feel like overall it has the potential because if by nature being a part of the community entails doing the work or taking the hard look, you would think that maybe the kind of honesty, the kind of integrity that's necessary to like be in that space. But as you said, like it really depends on the individual actors. Yet, Shane, you are willing to take in anyone into your church, correct?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that on the porch today. I was like, man, I was all sucks how most people don't realize like the stress this is of just letting strangers like come into your whole family dwelling and fucking just they're either gonna like it or they could hate it, they could talk shit, they could I don't know. I think about it on the porch today and I was like, well, I was like, thank God for the strength though, because fuck, this shit is hard. It is, because I know a lot of people don't roll like that, like they're not just gonna let. That's why people ran out Airbnbs or they have different properties but it's like I do all this in-house, and I do it where I live and I enjoy myself, and I have my space for myself and my family. So, I kind of wish people would see that the honest work that's going on. And I know they do, like yourself and others that welcome, what I do and appreciate what I do. But I want the whole at large to see because I feel like people like I keep saying, they can move farther with what they're doing, or they can move deeper into these states of consciousness and understanding instead of just kind of like, because to me, it just seems like a party. It just seems like a party and a bunch of like techies and different people trying to make money. You know what I mean? And I have yet to see the real wholesome group come out. You know, I've met micro versions of it, but I definitely want to see a group of people just be down for the truth and like not be with all that like extra stuff because some of it just seems like too much extra sauce on it and it's unappetizing. It's kind of like red flagging like all over, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like people don't look at it like that. They're like, "No, that's cool. That's awesome." And I'm like, "Man, that screams red flags all day." Like all day and people are just like, "Nah, it's good." You know, they have a good integration program. They give out microdoses. They get me certified and I'm like, "But what does that mean?"
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Well, when you when it blew me away to hear last year that this is something that people can make arrangements to do with you. And how does it work? Like if someone is listening to this and they decide that you're someone that they would like to look into working with, and like economically, logistically, can you just kind of break it down for us what the process entails?
Yeah, so I have different processes. Like there's some people who want to jump in and they'll jump in, but then there's some people who I'll just have like a couple exchange of emails, and then maybe we'll do a call and just discuss of like, you know, what they want to do, where they're at, you know, if they've ever done psychedelics, if they haven't, you know, whatever it may be, the things are kind of going through what they're looking to get out of, and then basically we'll bring them in for a sweat, like what I did with the couple that came from Virginia. Come in and sweat and get a feel of that, because I always tell people in that moment of intensity.
That's intimidating enough, isn't it, for a lot
Yeah,
of people? Yeah.
yeah. And I also want people to just kind of feel the grounds out and the area. Because I've noticed when I do bring some people that I just throw in, most people never been to a reservation. Most people never like seen how the reservation is, whether it be no one keeps their dogs on leashes, no one has this, no one has that. It's just very open. It's like no city lights and no signal out here. So like you know, I notice it throws people off to a degree. Not saying that's all it is, but so when they come sweat, they get familiar, they meet some of the members of the church, and then from there we kind of discuss the deeper questions of whether, you know, they've done it, they want to take a certain amount, or, you know, spiritually where they at, or religiously where they're at. You know, we just kind of go over themselves and they talk and just discuss. And then from there we set up the day of like, okay, well, here are the dates. You know, what's your schedule like? Do you want to come in on these dates or that date? And then from there, that's when we set it up and they come in and then we go through the whole process of gathering the medicine, setting up the ceremony and eating and hanging out and then going in and coming out sweat. And yeah, it's a good process.
It's set in motion remotely, and all the work happens in person.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I would like to in the future, you know, but I do, you know, I don't do video calls or anything, but I'll call some people or I'll message them like, you know, how you doing this month or anything happening or what's going on, you know, or would you like to come sweat or just give them little info dates or things like that, videos, things like that. So it's pretty cool, you know, and I like how people they dig it, you know, people really like the process. And I think people like the direct action of it. You know, like I know some places you can go and they'll be like, all right, you know, hope everything was good. We'll set up a Zoom call next week and we'll go over everything you went through and we'll integrate and we'll do this or we'll do that. But I like that it's all done directly at the moment, you know, because
Hmm.
I think people get more out of that, you know, versus just sitting there like, oh my gosh, what happened? You know, and they're going home and they're just like,
Yeah.
talk, you know.
The technology is mushrooms, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And are
And
you
that's the other thing too is I know a lot of people stack too. You know, I know so many people stack. And the only thing we stack is tobacco, cannabis, and psilocybin, you know. And one of the things too that I've noticed is this might be off or on topic, but I've noticed no one's talking about how, you know, your body can naturally convert the psilocybin into psilocin and give you that experience. You know, no one's talking about like how that's now just like how you have cannabinoid receptors in the brain and everything.
Mhm.
It's like isn't that something that our body can naturally do that to give us that experience? Like that should be more talked about in a natural state because it's like if it wasn't meant to be, it would either poison us or something would happen and it wouldn't. But it's like our body, the fact that the liver can naturally convert that into a, substance that can help you within your life, spiritually, mentally, and just at the moment of your brain, that should be really discussed. No one's, I don't think anyone's on that cutting edge of that because to me, I find that very, not only impressive, but intriguing just to know that our bodies can do that naturally without us having something like acid that had to be chemically altered or MDMA or all these other chemicals that have to be in the lab, the fact that this has doesn't have to be altered in any way, that's amazing. That's really amazing, and no one's talking about that.
What do you think is happening when the chemical process occurs which creates the medicine experience? Like why why is our understanding of life as we know it, going through the motions, making dinner, like caring for our families, getting work done, doing tasks, why is that kept separate from everything that is at play in the ceremonial experience?
Because I think all that's been like, it's been like programmed, like people have been programmed to be like, okay, I gotta get up, make my coffee, brush my teeth, turn my alarm, whatever it may be. Everyone has their own like automated autopilots, and I feel like the brain itself create just like when you drive, automatically everything's in tune, even though you can turn your radio this, but it's like it has an automatic autonomy to it, and that's what I feel like when you do that, it kind of takes that autonomy off, and now your brain can tap into itself. Like it's not hindered by your habits or your daily routine. It's like now it's like a omni flow. I always tell people you're like an antenna and a receiver. So now, now that you're at this level, it's like, especially with the electromagnetism in your body and all the things going on, the electrical current going on, it's like now you're on the ground, you're around natural things, just like, you interact with things. But I feel like in that moment, you're able to spiritually interact. So someone was telling me the other day, they're like, well, why is it you think you could see patterns and different things? And I was telling them it's a light spectrum. I was like, so everything is on a light spectrum from infrared to X-ray to ultraviolet. And then this spectrum we see. And I was like, when you take psilocybin, I was like, not only do your pupils dilate and allow more light to come in, I was like, but who's to say that now, because your brain is now activating itself, who's to say now you can access different light spectrums? And in that light spectrums, you could see patterns, you could see sacred geometry, you could see loved ones that have passed, everything in between. Because, like I said, now your field of vision is now expanding on a different level. You're seeing different light spectrums. That's why you're able to see these patterns. Because, like I said, if you were to change the light spectrum, you could see things. That's why you take night vision goggles and people go UFO hunting, you could see things because there's different things at different light spectrums. And that's where I think also the brain just gets activated to its core, and if you know that, if it's in you, it's going to happen. If not, I feel like you can learn it, because it's in our capacity to be spiritually in tuned beings, it's like part of our DNA, our biological makeup to, I feel like, express those ways of communication.
Is the point of being alive now to experience reality separated from the rest of reality through a human container? Is it about gleaning lessons by taking human form and being separated from the truth, or is it something that happened accidentally and that we have to evolve back into being the thing that we see when we step out of the thing that we're caught up in? Do you believe that this is an optimal experience chosen for growth that's necessary, or is it unfortunate that this reality is disconnected from the reality that could be revealed in a ceremonial process?
Yeah, I think I think it's just the fact of like where we're at with things, like how we do things. But I feel like at the end of the day, it's part of it. Like, because without this body, I feel like it would be bland. Like, because I feel like through the mind and the body, like that's how we experience empathy. That's how we experience all these things. But it's like if we were just straight spirit, I feel like the spirit is beyond like empathy and emotions. Like that's I feel like we're the only things that have the capacity to put things in good and evil. I feel like every other creation and element doesn't look at terms in good and evil. It's like they just do their thing. So what I'm saying is, I feel like this experience is honestly good or bad, it's the best. I was just talking to my friend about this the other day. I believe we choose our life before we come here. Whether that be we're way up here or we're way down here. I believe that we all know, like I always tell people, it's like you kind of sit down with God and you kind of like, you decide like, what do you want to do? Like, how do you want to express yourself to not only myself, creator, but to the people? Like, how do you want to like rub off to them? And I feel like some people choose to kind of be in the dirt, and not a bad thing because there's lessons in everything. Like there's a lesson in everything from the highest to the lowest. Just like I say, from the king to the bottom, there's emotional distress, there's anxiety, there's anger. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you're prone to life's problems. And just because you're down here doesn't mean you can't experience those things either. So that's where I'm getting at. Is just I believe this is the best experience. This body, this way, the brain, it's like it's one of the best ways to hone it in, and to me, without it, you're everywhere, you're everything. It's all everything, one in everything, everything is all. And so I think this is best experience because you get to actually you move, you can move. Like I said, a tree can't just get up and go get some water, the cloud can't just come down, and I feel like that's why there's always like the Bible and everything. That's why I have that battle between the demons and this, because it's like without this, they're nothing. They just talk in your ear. They just give you insights. And that's how I feel like that's why all these things, the spirits come in, because it's like, this is the most precious thing. The body is the best thing you can have here. Not saying in the universe, but in this container of earth, you're going to want to have this. You're going to want to feel, you're going to want to see, you're going to want to hear. You're going the best things to do sometimes. Like I said, if I couldn't touch, feel, see, hear, none of that, it's like I would have no existence. So through this touch, the sight, the hear, the feeling, the heart, it's like it's giving me the best feeling here. And like I said, even someone who's in the lowest, it's like I'm pretty sure at the time they're still happy that they're able to be there. Even though it might suck, they're probably like, still better than being dead. Even if they can't articulate the situation or get out of it. But I still think sometimes somewhere it still clicks like, man, I could still walk, or I could still go out and get my beer, get my fix, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Or I just think it's cool. Like I would rather be the body. I mean, just ask who wants to die. No one wants to really die. Everyone's like, I love this. I love being here.
So, if you want to be here more with Shane in real life, what are the best ways to connect, Shane? And any last things that anyone should know about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, it's cool. I like that you asked that because my friend was telling me that. He's like, you know what? He's all, it's good to express people too of like why that relationship with Creator Mother Earth is very important and how it can be beneficial. Because there's been people who've asked me like, I've never done mushrooms, and how do I get more connected, or how do I get more in tuned? And I was like, it's simple. Like find a piece of earth. Find something that you like, whether it be a hike, ocean, a land, a landmark you like, something of that nature, some dirt, whatever it may be, and connect and feel and be with it and understand that it's there for your benefit as well. It's there for you to breathe and take a breather and relax, or think of yourself more connected to it, because at the end of the day, you're right there with it. And so for me, I would like to share, anyone who's looking to get into psychedelics or in psychedelics, just expand your relationship with nature, and find more solitude in nature. And I feel like that'll help people be more humble, more nurturing and understanding in their communities. And they don't want to do psychedelics, it's nothing wrong with that. I feel like there's still good people out there who don't need to take psychedelics, and there's people who have these thoughts and feelings already without taking psychedelics, whether it's taking care of the earth, taking care of your community, your body, your mind, your spirit. So at the end of the day, just thankful to be here. I'm glad that everyone's hungry to expand their consciousness and expand their mind and their body and their spirit. And I hope that we can all come together in a good way, because that's why I'm here. I'm not here to cause division or spread any problems. If I'm going to say anything, it's just because I might know that's full of shit. But at the end of the day, it's all right. That's on them. That's what they do. They're going to have to testify to that, whether to the people, to their company, to their sponsors. It don't matter. They're going to have to deal with that, not me.
Shane Norte, Church of the People for Creator and Mother Earth. Thank you so much. This has been a conversation a long time coming, and hopefully we'll be able to continue this dialogue in the coming weeks and months, man. I'd love to be in touch with you and have you participate, share the messaging on the MindBend platform as we can make it happen.
Definitely, Matthew. Thank you. And I appreciate the time and the effort to set this up. And yeah, I would like to maybe in the future write up some points, and maybe we can possibly have, like what we're talking about, an uncomfortable dialogue. Maybe get a couple different people from sides, and maybe we can get a talk or something. I don't know.
Now let's brainstorm on it, man. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. You have a good one. Good talk.
All right.